What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this one I want to talk about what's going on with the overall market when I believe NIO is going to likely get a nice run to the upside. I want to talk about some very important cycles in the market and how this could affect NIO. But before I begin down all this information, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner. Take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. Deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and the offer ends very soon. Anyways, now let's break down what's going on with NIO in the markets. NIO has this downtrend that's very, very strong, at least for the short term. But the question is, how is NIO going to move for the long term? Is NIO going to get a big bounce or not? And the answer is yes, I believe NIO will bounce, but it's not going to happen the way some people are expecting. I have to give you guys some unfortunate news. The truth is, you have to be very patient with a stock like NIO, given what's happening in the economy right now. So it's not just NIO, though, it's also Tesla. So if you look at Tesla and many of these other EVs, Tesla is down like crazy since the year started. Tesla, excuse me, Tesla was at 265 at the end of the year, 2023. In January, this was in the 250s. Now it's barely at 212. So we got this big drop on Tesla. We saw NIO follow the trend. XPeng is falling. All these different stocks are just following these very, very similar trends. So what's going on? There's a lot of fear right now about slowing demand, which is really hurting these EV companies. There's a lot of fear about the fact that we're kind of maintaining this high interest rate environment that's leading to more pain for the companies. Recessionary fears are kind of affecting them first. So I believe it's very simple. NIO, Tesla, these stocks are taking hits and they could have more downside coming, at least based off technicals and such. Despite that, despite the fact that there could be more, downside and stuff like that, I just want to mention that if these stocks fall first, they're also going to be the first ones to recover. So I think that the market is not necessarily as crazy as some people may think in a way where it's going to keep running forever. I believe that SPY and all these different tickers have more upside coming for the short term. The QQQ could push up to 425 plus. It could get a little bit higher than that. It is possible it pushes a little bit more, right? I also think that SPY could push a little bit more to 485 plus, maybe a little bit higher. But I don't believe that this is going to last forever. Because what's going to happen is, as we're maintaining these high interest rates and as they maintain in the economy for longer, the pain that comes is going to get hotter and there's going to be a risk of a recession that's coming. Notice how the probable odds of the Fed pausing has gone down. I'm sorry, the Fed cutting in March has gone down, and the odds are now favoring the Fed pausing through that. This suggests that there's going to be more pain than expected, and a recession is coming soon, in my opinion. With the recession coming, we're going to see unemployment start to spike more, and the effects of the rate hikes are going to come. With the fear of the recession and the way this is going to affect these companies, because so far earnings have been very mixed. Tesla has earnings next week as well, but we'll see how Tesla does, and we'll see what Tesla announces, especially for guidance. But ultimately, I believe there's downside going to come to the markets. I believe that as we approach the month of March/April, I think the market's going to start to correct, and we're going to see SPY drop at least 6 to 7%. Okay, you heard that properly, and I can actually show you some levels. If you go on the SPY charts, although it's been pumping, that's great. Let's actually go to the daily. The first thing you want to note is that based off technicals, we have a big bearish divergence on the daily chart. It could push a little bit higher, yes, it can, but there's so many unfilled gaps, right? We have this gap down here to 476. We have a gap down here to 472. If we go back on the chart, you will remember that there's way more gaps below. We have gaps like right here in the 460s. There's a big gap down here in even the 440 area has like a gap. So we have a bunch of unfilled gaps. We have bearish divergence. We have recessionary fears coming, and there's going to be some contraction in the economy. So I think the market's going to quickly price in the recession. And I think that as we approach March/slash April, there's going to be a big correction coming. Now, could the market pump a bit more? Yes, it can, but then there's going to be that correction. And then what's going to happen is, because we have an election year, when everyone becomes extremely fearful, they start expecting a big crash for an entire year. The market is going to price in the recession very quickly. And historically, as we get closer to the elections, the market tends to uptrend, especially when we're like at least 3 months before the election, the market starts to uptrend, which tells me that by June/July, the stock market's going to rally again, and we're going to see a crazy squeeze going into the November election because it's not going to be looking good for politicians if something like this were to happen. Last year, I was saying that in November, there's going to be a squeeze when the market was tanking in October, and that ended up playing out. Remember that? I called that. Now I'm telling you, as we approach June, the market's going to start. Well, so the market's going to correct as we approach March/April, consolidate a lot in May, and then starting in June, I think the market's going to start uptrending. And we're going to get a monstrous squeeze to end the year, approaching the election. And during that time, I think that that's going to be when the whole market starts running, and I think that stocks like NIO and Tesla will be recovering the quickest. I think that around April to May, when the market's like already starting to bottom, that's when we're going to see a big bounce in Tesla and NIO. I think it may take a few months, but that's when we're going to start to see a big uptrend, and that's when we're going to see the full recovery phase. The market's going to correct soon, okay? Could SPY push a little bit more for the short term? Yes, it can. But as we approach, February to March, as we get to that period, we're going to see some downside, especially going into April. And I think that NIO and Tesla are dropping first. They're dropping already. And they're kind of like highlighting what's going to happen to the rest of the market soon. And these are going to be the first ones to recover as well. I think it's going to be a strong year for the small caps, but that is my view. I could go into more details there, but I just wanted to make this as simple as possible. So when is NIO going to, bounce? So NIO could see downside for a few more months, even depending on earnings and such. It's still possible this thing just maintains these lower levels between $5 and $7, even lower levels than that. Okay, that's fine with me. I'll be buying the dips because NIO's, excuse me, NIO's long-term future, their autonomous technology, their growth, their vehicles, their expansion to other countries, not to mention their battery swapping technology and etc. It makes me very, very bullish for the company for the long term. And I think that NIO is going to make a full recovery. When is the big bounce going to come, a big rally to the upside? It may take many months. It may not happen until like around April time before the whole market starts to recover. And I think that that's how long it's going to take until we get like a massive, massive bounce. This also depends on earnings and such, but that's when I think we're going to stop this massive downtrend we've been in, and that's when NIO is going to start to make its full recovery. This is delayed because of the recession, because of some hardships, but we're going to get past it, guys. So what do I see here with all these stocks dropping? Tesla is approaching 200 again, right? This is not something that's just horrible, but if anything, this is a potential opportunity. There's opportunity in Tesla, there's opportunity in NIO, there's opportunity in the markets. Okay. That's the way I see this. Buying opportunities are coming. I'm going to be watching to see if this ends up holding. All right. This is a buying opportunity for Tesla, a buying opportunity for NIO. These things could start a massive recovery phase after the market corrects, because the correction hasn't truly started for SPY and the others. It's going to start soon. They're pumping it because we're getting ready for the correction. But don't forget, eventually I do see a big recovery phase, and I think we're going to be approaching that later. So what's going to happen to the markets? We may pump a little bit more for SPY in the QQQ. Then we're going to start a big downtrend. So we pump a little bit more, then we're going to start downtrending as we approach March/April. We're going to see consolidation in May, and then as we approach June, the market's going to be done with all the correcting. We're going to see a full-on recovery phase because we're going to be approaching the election. When the market approaches the elections historically, the large majority of the time we start uptrending beforehand. You guys can see it right here historically, right? So, excuse me, sorry guys. That's what I think is going to likely play out. A big uptrend is coming, and I believe that there's so much potential despite that. So that's when I think NIO is going to recover. It's going to recover first alongside Tesla and the others. Depending on earnings and such, this could actually affect this. We could see some bounces here and there, but the real recovery, the big, big, big run, the squeeze that's going to help NIO eventually make its way up, back up to those highs, is going to start in a couple of months. It may take a while when the whole market starts to recover from the big drop we get, the correction we get because of the recession. That's what I think is going to happen. They're not going to make the drop last forever because they know that everyone's expecting a big crash. They're not going to let that last forever. They're going to try to keep things up for quite some time. They're going to make it a quick drop. It may take a few months, and then we're going to make a quick recovery. They're not going to crash the market for the whole year like so many people are expecting. It's all part of their little game. All right, so I will go into more details about this in a future video. I just wanted to make this very broad and very simple. So have a great day, guys. I'll be back later on for another one. NIO will recover, but it's going to take many months for the real big recovery phase, there could be pops here and there depending on earnings and news. But for now, that's what I have for this one. Thank you for listening. Have a great day and peace out.